90%. Not 60, not even 80. 90% of social media users never post anything. No photos, no comments, not even a like most of the time. They watch. That's it. A study from Northeastern University just put a number on something nobody wanted to admit. The overwhelming majority of us are silent. And yet, you, me, everyone, we talk about social media like it's a place where you exist, BI posting. That's not true. Not for most people. So here's the real question, the one nobody ever answers correctly. What's actually happening inside the mind of someone who watches everything and shows nothing? Today, we're answering that question. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you something that even the psychologists studying this almost always miss. Before we go any further, we need to kill an idea. An idea you hear everywhere. The idea that these people, the ones who don't post, are passive, inactive, almost absent. That's false, and it's actually the opposite of the truth. The researcher who led that study, Anis Bakir, made a critical observation. These people consume content, absorb it, and it shapes their decisions, even if they never write a single line back. Sociologist Erving Goffman had a theory about this. He called social media a stage. Every post is a performance, prepared, rehearsed, played for an audience. And here's the first thing to understand. The 90% never agreed to step onto that stage. But, and this is where it gets interesting, it's not because they're afraid of the stage. It's because they understood something about the stage itself. Something we're about to explore. But before that, a second question just opened up. Let's hold on to it for later. If these people are watching everything while showing nothing, do they know more about us than we know about them? Hold on to that. We'll come back to it. Now let's talk about what happens to the other 10%, the ones who post. Every time a post gets a reaction, a like, a heart, a comment, the brain releases a hit of dopamine, the same chemical involved in food, gambling, and addiction. But here's what nobody tells you. This system doesn't just reward the moment of the like, it rewards the moment before the post. The anticipation, the calculation, which photo to choose, what caption to write, how to phrase it for maximum reaction. It's called the audience effect. Social psychology has studied it for decades. Just knowing you'll be watched changes your behavior before the watching even happens. A study from the University of Texas at Dallas found a link between passive social media browsing and depressive symptoms through a specific mechanism, social comparison, which leads to fear of missing out, which leads to depression. But, and this is crucial, that same study and more recent research published in 2024 in Frontiers in Psychology made an essential distinction. Not all passive browsing is the same. Mindlessly scrolling at midnight, comparing yourself to everyone else? That's harmful, that's documented, but deliberately choosing not to participate, consciously, strategically, researchers call this strategic lurking, and the outcomes are completely different. Less stress, more privacy preserved, sharper mental clarity. So here's our first major distinction. There's a difference between staying silent out of fear and staying silent out of strategy. And that brings us straight to the second question we've been holding on to since the start. How do you tell from the outside whether someone who doesn't post is doing it out of fear or out of strength? We're getting there, but first, we need to talk about a man who lived almost 2,000 years ago, and in a few minutes, he's going to flip everything we just said. Psychologists use a term, self-concept clarity. Basically, it's your ability to know who you are, your values, your tastes, your boundaries, without needing anyone else to confirm it. Multiple studies have found a correlation. The more intense and self-presentation focused someone's social media use, the lower their self-concept clarity tends to be. Why? Because in that context, identity becomes a product you test on the market. You post a version of yourself. You watch the reaction. You adjust. And you do it again. The problem is that loop never measures who you are. It measures what gets a response. And over time, the line between the two gets blurry. Now here's something I've never seen mentioned in any video on this topic. There's a documented phenomenon among certain content creators that you could call audience dissonance. The moment when what you actually feel and what you're expected to post for your audience start to diverge, and gradually the public version takes over because it gets more response than the private one. People who never post simply never opened that door. Their inner mirror only reflects themselves, not an average of outside reactions. And that's where we need to talk about a man, the most powerful man of his time, who also had a mirror that only reflected himself. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the known world for almost 2 decades. His writings, meditations, get cited constantly as the handbook of modern Stoicism, millions of copies sold, quoted by entrepreneurs, athletes, world leaders, and the version you hear everywhere goes like this: look, even the most powerful man in the world kept his thoughts to himself. Silence is strength. That version isn't wrong, but it's not complete, and the part everyone leaves out changes everything. Here's what very few people actually know. Meditations was never a book. It wasn't even meant to become one. It was a personal journal. Written in Greek, while his native language was Latin, likely so the people closest to him couldn't easily read it if they came across the pages. Marcus Aurelius wrote this at night during military campaigns in the middle of a plague while running an empire that was starting to crack. He wasn't writing for an audience. He was writing to himself. Literally, the original title in Greek translates to something like "to himself." And here's the twist. For centuries, that silence got interpreted as proof of Stoic wisdom. He didn't need an audience, but what people leave out is that an older Stoic practice already existed, passed down through Seneca, describing exactly this kind of writing, a daily self-examination, almost like an inner judge, asking every night, what did you fix today? Which flaw did you resist? So this wasn't an act of total silence. It was an act of communication, just directed inward. A conversation with himself as the only recipient. And that completely changes how you should see people who don't post. Because the real question isn't, why aren't they communicating? The real question is, who are they communicating with, if not an audience? Here's what social psychology research is starting to document, and it lines up strangely well with this ancient practice. People with what researchers call secure self-esteem, stable, independent of outside approval, tend to engage in something you could call internal self-narration. They process their own day. They evaluate their own choices, but not out loud and not for anyone. And studies on cortisol, the stress hormone, show these people respond differently during social evaluation. Their nervous system doesn't treat outside judgment as a direct threat to their identity. So let's go back to our silent observer, the one who watches everything and shows nothing, If they're doing it out of fear, avoidance, social anxiety, then their silence is a silence of withdrawal. They watch others because they don't dare show themselves. And research documents that too. That kind of lurking is linked to more anxiety, not less. But if they're doing it by choice, because, like Marcus Aurelius, they have an inner space where they process and understand themselves without needing to turn it into content, then their silence is a silence of sovereignty. The difference isn't in the visible behavior. From the outside, both look exactly the same. Someone scrolling without posting, the difference is entirely on the inside. And that's the answer to our second question, the one we've held since the start. You can't tell from the outside whether someone is silent out of fear or out of strength. But you can know for yourself. Here's a simple exercise inspired directly by Marcus Aurelius's practice, adapted for today. Next time something happens to you, good news, a win, a meaningful moment, before you even think about sharing it, do one thing. Write it down. For yourself, 1 or 2 sentences, not for anyone to read, just to see them, written by you. Then notice what happens in your body. If you feel something missing, like the experience isn't complete until someone else has seen it, that's information. It means part of your validation still depends on an outside audience. And that's not a failure, it's just information. But if you feel like the experience is enough, complete, like simply living it and writing it down for yourself is sufficient, then for a few seconds you just touched exactly what Marcus Aurelius touched every night 2,000 years ago in his tent during a war. It's not silence for silence's sake, it's a conversation, just with the right recipient. So let's come back to our invisible observer, the 90%. Some of them stay silent out of fear. That's real, it's documented, and it's not something to glorify. But others simply moved the conversation from the public stage to an inner one, a stage no one sees, not even us. And maybe that's the real definition of power in a world saturated with audience. Not needing a witness for something to matter. But here's something that remains a mystery, something we haven't even started to touch on today. We talked about people who don't post their thoughts, their opinions, their daily life. But there's an even rarer category, even less understood. People who never post their face, their photo, their image, not once. Not even a recognizable profile picture. In a world where image has become digital identity itself. What does it mean, psychologically, to refuse even your own reflection?